pretty much always been either Rhyme and Kroll, or one of them getting through and just getting picked up almost immediately. Blackfeather, I think, then also has to be another heavy consideration.
Yeah, definitely. And the fact that Koshko was banned, taken away from T-Tigers, he's been playing quite a bit of it. Played it 3 times against Rogue in the last weekend of the first split. Played it yesterday once against C9. So Koshka, he's not going to have it this time. They choose to go for Arden. I'm actually surprised because usually they prioritize Lyra over Arden. This time they're choosing to change their strategies and go for the Arden first. Afterwards, Blackfeather comes through.
And Blackfeather and then Kroll getting banned away. So we're not going to see the Rhyme or the Kroll coming out here in this game at least. And now Tribe trying to figure out what else they want to ban. Taking the Lyra off the board. This is kind of becoming just the standard sort of draft. These 5 to 6 heroes being focused very heavily. The only sort of difference from what we saw all through Europe today is the Koshka ban, and that's just because of showing the respect to T-Tigers, but it's going to be Team Solo Mid taking the Churnwalker once again. Still not something Europe has picked up on, but
this is going to be a good one. We've got the Churnwalker coming through. TSM with a team that managed to have success with this yesterday.
Yeah.
How do you expect them to work with this Churnwalker?
I mean, we haven't talked about it in a quiet bit. Churnwalker is extremely strong in team fights. Not only that, but he actually is strong early game. He has a very fast jungle clear. The biggest thing about him is that he manages to share the damage that's being applied on a target to the entire team, or to the entire targets that he's changed and hooked. So it's in his passive. His kit is very good when it comes to sharing damage. The thing is, we saw it yesterday, Tribe versus C9. Tribe managed to win against Churnwalker.
Yeah, and the Reza pick is that hard dive that we like to see against the Churnwalker. The Saw is another one of those ones that's just like, okay.
What is this draft? Alpha as well coming through. It's madness here on the Halcyon Fold. TSM locking in the Alpha to finish things off. I've completely cut you off there, but I'm just like mind-boggled. This is, for me, this is the dream draft because we get to see complete chaos. What do we expect to see in this game? Because we've got to get on into this one.
I mean, I gotta talk about the fact that TSM are abusing the strong heroes in 2.9. Blackfeather is huge. Aftershock on Alpha is huge. Churnwalker, obviously the new hero. I wanted to say that TSM are very far ahead in their meta already from any or above everyone else in North America. It's showing in this draft.
At the same time, though, you've got Saw being picked up on the side of Tribe, and that's another one of these picks that is you kind of ahead of the meta, so to speak. So it's just going to be absolutely thrilling to watch. I cannot wait to see how things shape up in this game.
I have to ask, what is the logic behind this weapon power saw again? Because this is not going to be the CP one, assuming that Reza is CP in the jungle. I feel like that's a safe assumption. What are you expecting out of this weapon power saw? How does that play into things like a Churnwalker? Because it's not very mobile.
It actually plays well into Churnwalker and Blackfeather just because he can apply a lot of pressure early on. Blackfeather in lane specifically is weak early on. So if Saw manages to get a couple of turrets, he can definitely allow Reza to carry on in the team fights, and they just play around as a team well.
All right, well, it's time to get on into this one. It's time to get into Team Solo Mid going up against Tribe. Let us know who you're supporting. Hashtag Vainglory8. I can't wait to get into this one. So without further ado, let's pass it over to Dowsy and the Source for game number 1.
Hi, it's me, 2.9.1, and I'm here to change up your meta and just completely mix up the world you know of Vainglory. Source, it is an exciting time to be alive. Churnwalker, Alpha, Saw, and Reza here on the Halcyon Fold. Where do you want to start?
I don't think we could have asked for anything better than getting both Churnwalker and Saw, and then they throw us the Alpha. I feel like the Reza is just becoming what just a standard jungle pick and is going to be there, but I didn't expect us to see that much Alpha, and it'll be Aftershock with the CP Alpha. So, massive burst damage. I fear for Dienzio's life. I feel like he's going to get jumped a lot.
We'll have to see. We did see yesterday in the Tribe Cloud9 series that Cloud9 were respecting the Saw from Dienzio the entire series. And then eventually when it did get let through, Dienzio was able to become a monster. And if you guys follow Playoff Beard on Twitter, he believes that Saw is the worst matchup that you can pick a Churnwalker into, but oh my goodness, here we go. Dienzio will just die. First blood goes over to Von C. And so for now, TSM going to be saying to Playoff Beard that they can make Churnwalker work into Saw.
So that was a 2-chain setup, or 3 chains actually. 1 chain on the Elder Treant, 1 chain on Dienzio, and 1 chain on Zelsier. And that's how much damage they did. That was maybe 2 skills coming in. Von C got off a massive amount of damage, and Best Chuck and A followed up, but that's just level 1. That's what Flash X.
Oh my goodness, they're doing it again! Dienzio finds the kill! Oh my goodness, a stutter-stepping god! That will be Flash X dead. But all right, as Zelsia comes back into the lane to blood for blood, Best Chuck and A. It's a 1v1 duel between an Arden and a Blackfur, and currently the Arden is winning it. It's disgusting how much damage he can do in the early game. T-Tigers does roam up to lane just to continue the pressure game. Tribe with a Saw, they can push this turret so quickly. They're going to look to try and chunk it down as much as possible in the early levels. Here comes Von C to challenge it all. Prime Directive onto Dienzio. Gets pulled back by Turnwalker, and the kill goes to Von C once more. Flash X styling all over Dienzio right now. It's going to be a fun game.
So I thought Flash X was playing just a little too aggressively. We saw when he went down, Turnwalker's pretty vulnerable in the early game where he hasn't built up a bunch of health, but perfectly timed Torment to pull him back in before the chain broke. There's actually an interesting timing when the chains actually break as somebody is running away. So Flash X has definitely put in a reasonable amount of time into the Turnwalker to make that happen. That's gonna set them up for these massive dive plays because they're a triple melee composition. Everything's gonna be about how they get onto Dienzio, how much pressure they can put onto him, and where they can abuse T-Tiger's positioning, in the middle of team fights.
Tribe, not happy to keep themselves down, will continue pushing this lane in. You can see T-Tiger's very aggressive in his positioning. Won't spot Von C coming into the lane here. Best Chuck already setting up the gank. However, Dienzio will be scared off. Looks like he's going to backport under his turret, and TSM will get an opportunity to push the lane into the turret. In fact, with T-Tigers going back as well, I wonder if TSM will recognize the opportunity to do damage. No, they don't. Instead, they're going to be roaming down, catching this Elder Treant as it respawns.
Yep, they'll use Flash X's hooks to help them clear out the jungle. And at the beginning of the game, I thought Flash X was going to do some cheeky jungling, but was willing to back that up because there's no ranged carry on this team. There are no ranged characters. For the side of TSM, all of their heroes are melee. They have to be careful about where they position. They're also kind of a low wave clear composition in a sense, unless Von C is there to add a little bit more damage. They don't really wave clear that well, so Dienzio should have a fine time putting pressure on this turret, as we can see. It just comes down to whether or not they can get people there in time to pressure him through, getting that health bar down like we saw. They forced him out, they forced him to back, but if he does that 1 or 2 more times, that's a first turret for them.
Well, here you go, a replay on your screens as we talk. In fact, it's not a replay, it's real life! You just got spooked. It's the spooky month of October, and lots of different fun things happening here. Right now, TSM...
Ghost in the production machine.
Ghost in the production. It's too spooky for me right now. That's a Serpent's Mask picked up by Best Chuck NA. Flash X very close to finishing off his fountain, but isn't quite there. Zelsia's got a very interesting build. It's double contract, which means he's nowhere near getting himself a fountain just yet. But he has a lot of gold in his inventory, 2,000 gold, which he'll be looking to use at some point, I assume, to head down to the shop and purchase himself a fountain.
Yeah, I think they're mostly focusing on how much value they can get out of the lane, using the double contract to just give them some pressure and lane positioning. And since Flash X doesn't have his fountain, it's not as if they're really that far behind until that really comes through. Hooks are landing, though.
Von C's level 6. That Termination Protocol is now ready to go. There it is. Prime Directive missing. Unfortunately, Von C won't get the engage that he was looking for there. Or fortunately, if you're Dienzio, I guess it just depends on your outlook on life. And now Tribe get an opportunity to push this lane back into the turret. It's very low, this turret. May just go down. Dienzio will commit. Turret goes down at 5.5 minutes. And a fight breaking out as Von C jumps in and deletes Dienzio. T-Tigers trying to escape. Von C won't be chasing Zelsia, but T-Tigers will lose his life. Turret does go down, but what price will Tribe pay for it?
Possibly the return turret from the side of TSM. You see, in the middle of those team fights, Best Chuck NA is getting a lot of space to maneuver. Von C is coming in with burst damage, and Flash X is getting at least 2 chains down before these fights really get engaged upon. That's really all that TSM needs to make these things happen. As long as they can sort of step up, to Dienzio, who is a fairly immobile character on the Saw, they should be able to just continuously set up the team fights. The question is will T-Tigers get online fast enough damage-wise, and will Zelsier be able to protect Dienzio enough to keep them alive through what is a massive amount of burst?
Currently another fight breaking out as FlashX perhaps a little bit out of position. T-Tiger's definitely wanting to punish this. Dienzio not pushing in. Never Form detonator used onto FlashX and Best Chuck. Here comes Dienzio to join the fight. Oh, that's a lot of damage coming out of Von C. Have to watch out for him. He's on top of Dienzio. Dienzio's struggling. They can just continue this fight, TSM. Making it look so easy. A double kill comes through for Best Chuck and A. Make that a triple? Ace. Nah, Von C's going to take it away. Ace though for TSM at 6:55, and they are looking pretty strong.
A lot of that's off the back of how FlashX positioned in the middle of that team fight and how long he was able to kind of keep the members of Tribe around. It feels as though Tribe really isn't ready for this Churnwalker pick because they spent so much time putting damage into FlashX and they didn't manage to finish him off. They either weren't willing to commit for it or they didn't have the damage at the time, and that lets him heal back up through the course of the fight using his passive. And it just starts to kind of fall apart for the side of Tribe if they don't manage to bring somebody down quickly. And he also didn't have ultimate for that. There was no trespass to follow that up. And imagine how, remember how close they were. Everybody was grouped up and taking so much damage. Imagine if a stun had come through.
Basically, imagine a world where TSM win the fight even harder is what we're considering right now. That's a scary thing to imagine if you are Tribe. You've managed to achieve the quest, I guess you could say, of Saw, getting your first turret down by 5.5 minutes. It used to be like the standard if you're going to play a Saw composition. Can they continue the aggression and keep up with TSM, who right now with this Alpha and Churnwalker just seem to be outputting ridiculous chunks of damage? Tribe backing off as soon as TSM show themselves in the lane.
Massive dive onto Dienzio is apparent with these 2 Atlas Pauldrons. They finished 2 Atlas Pauldrons at 8 minutes into the game. They are so concerned with being able to take away Dienzio's ability to do damage, and in a sense also T-Tiger's. You know, granted he does use a lot of abilities, but there are plenty of auto attacks in there, and he will get off some value with that. So, you know, good team itemization to take Dienzio's damage kind of out of question and pretty much leave it on T-Tigers, who hasn't really been able to show up that much this game. He dove pretty heavily onto FlashX. He got a lot of damage down onto him, but he was chained up. The damage was transferring over into healing. So I think they really need to find the optimal target, which to me right now looks like it's Best Chuck NA. If they can bring him down, maybe you get the time to either kite out Von C or at least survive, because again, FlashX isn't going to do that much damage. He's facilitating the rest of his team. Take out one of those pillars of damage, and you should be able to survive from the side of Tribe.
One thing to note is that Reza's a very flashy hero, but he struggles into this Alpha matchup. Struggles to take her down quickly. You kind of rely a lot on your AD carry to do so. I say AD carry, I just mean carry. Yeah, it's something that T-Tigers will be constantly having at the back of his head, is the fact that he's falling behind Von C. Von C, 4-0-3, has rushed himself straight into a broken myth to take down Dienzio even quicker, who's already got himself tier 2 shielding. This broken myth is going to be doing so much for Von C in these early levels. That shielding not even going to matter, considering the fact that Von C has already got his broken myth. With the extra 30% PS just does so much, and TSM feeling very comfortable to just take this gold miner. Even though Tribe are here, we did see a steal earlier on from an Arden and a Blood for Blood. It was Just Man, but Zelsia not going to try it here. TSM now pushing onto the Crystal Sentry, pushing onto Dienzio. Oh dear, trespassed over, and a stun onto your Dienzio spells his death. Zelsia, it's a double going over to Von C, who picks himself up the Sentry. Tribe being torn apart. Von C narrowly missing that Prime Directive, wanted a triple.
Yeah, and despite Tribe getting that first turret, despite them having that aggressive lane push and looking for the advantage with the Saw, they're kind of being picked apart over the course of these team fights. You set up on certain objectives. Anything in the jungle is very good for FlashX, and now we see T-Tiger is putting pressure on Best Chuck and A, but I don't think it's going to work.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult for Reza to burst down both a Black Feather and Alpha. They're very tanky. T-Tiger's doing his best work. Look at this, Von C going in with the Prime Directive onto Dienzio T-Tigers, but he's going to get bursted. Couldn't quite find the kill. Dies under the turret. Maybe Tribe can follow this up. Great gauntlet, could have stunned Best Chuck and A. T-Tiger's going to get himself maybe a double. No, never mind. Debated, says Best Chuck as he rose defensive. Dienzio with the suppressing fire finally shuts down this Black Feather. We're at a point now where 2 turrets have already been taken and TSM have themselves a 3,000 gold lead.
So they're able to take the turrets off of massive team fight. They're able to step up to these jungle-based objectives, Gold Miner and Crystal Sentries, very, very easily with the help of Flash X, and they're just coordinating their dives very, very quickly. They're not giving DNZO time to kind of sit back and do damage, and he's gone with a non-lifesteal build. It's all about the damage, it's all about the crit. But I think because of that, he's not surviving in that kind of, you think about what a Saw does when he's got a Serpent's Mask and he just sits there. He'll survive through and he'll bait you into diving a little bit too hard. Yes, TSM went a bit over-aggressive on that turret, but they've got some space to maneuver with that, despite giving back a little bit of a gold advantage over towards Tribe. They're still about 4,000 ahead, give or take, and they should be fine, especially because item-wise, Von C is doing massive damage. Best Chakane is getting very, very difficult for them to kill, and Flash X is kind of reaching those utility moments where now that he has the War Treads, he's just going to be able to get on top of DNZO even faster.
Right now, TSM in such a position that they can just look to take whatever they want off the map. Another gold miner on the menu here as the entirety of Tribe are forced to share golden experience with each other to try and get themselves up into a position where they can team fight. That's a monocle picked up for DNZO, hitting his 3rd item, that Sorrow Blade double crit. The monocles is going to be outputting a bit of damage, but you can already see Atlas on TSM. They have really prepared to try and cut down the attack speed of this Saw, and oh dear, T-Tiger seems to be caught out as well. DNZO dives on in! Von C dives onto DNZO. Zelsia places down a gauntlet that got pulled back, and in fact, I think that only helped Zelsia. It stopped Best Chuck from chasing. Von C put into his reboot. TSM unsuccessful in their dives. Fountain wasn't even used by Zelsia, so Tribe can re-engage this fight, and I feel like they may around the Crystal Sentry here if they can get into position. You have to keep in mind that Saw is so slow. DNZO is desperately trying to get into the team fight, whilst Zelsia and T-Tiger's attempts to keep TSM in the area. The null wave picked up by Flash X. Fusion's refreshed, but I think DNZO was just too slow to get to the team fight.
Oh, T-Tigers.
Alright.
He'll walk away. He'll walk away for a moment. But I was about to talk about T-Tigers in terms of his item build. He's starting to catch up in terms of damage, and maybe he's going to be able to bring down Best Chakane. But Best Chakane is not sticking around long enough for T-Tigers to actually dish out that damage. And again, we see TSM going for another Crystal Sentry. It's very, very easy for Flash X to step up to that, throw down a hook, and he's actually going to be tanking through that. And as far as team fighting goes, Churnwalker is showing that it's very difficult to teamfight him in the jungle. If there are minion camps around, that's just more healing he's going to get. That's more ways to transfer that damage. So say you're all hooked up and you think your Crystal Sentry is helping you. No, it's actually just being the conduit for them to get free damage onto you. So I really feel as if Tribe, they need to find fights in the lane. You need to take this back to we're a Saw, we can set up a position and just dish out damage and then let T-Tigers and Excelsior protect DNZO. They just haven't been willing to do that so far.
At the moment, Von C at a position where he's already got all of his defensives ready to go. Now wanting to get himself what I would assume would be a Dragon's Eye, so he can stack up his damage in team fights and really just become a huge threat. TSM moving into the jungle. Prime Directive won't find a target. T-Tigers kind of just baiting out right now, as Tribe know that there's not really any place for them to be but under their choke point turret. Though T-Tigers wants his farm. Can he get it? He's going to get Prime Directive. T-Tigers can jump over that wall, but he fails. It's going to be a Torment. Not quite stunning up T-Tigers. Currently DNZO doing a bit of damage over the wall. Looks like TSM are going to be forced back out of the jungle for now. The Crystal Sentry comes back to work, but they're just going to look to start up the Crystal Sentry, remove it from the map once more. I think this is an elimination as well if they take it out. It is. All 3 lives taken. TSM moving over towards the Kraken.
Yeah, and there aren't a lot of opportunities to bring down Crystal Sentries that quickly. You think about maybe, Ryan is particularly good at it. Maybe, you can coordinate the team fight for that. But Flash is kind of just setting these up on his own. Once he puts a hook on there, he's able to just sort of use that as his position to fall back to. And that's pressured the side of Tribe out, so they're not really sure where they can kind of engage their fights. We think about oppressive jungle setups, maybe a Kroll, maybe, a Petal who's super, super far ahead. But I think we're starting to see where Churnwalker can kind of do that. We also, haven't seen Tribe spend that much time in the lane after the first turret went down, and it's really just been TSM being able to, find the team fights and be willing, just have so much dive presence. Oh, Fonzie, insult to injury, steals it away.
It's absolutely disgusting, isn't it? They're taking Kraken, and all T-Tigers wants is an Eve of Harvest. T-Tigers will not get it, unfortunately, at this juncture. Maybe sitting just 20 gold away from it with that heavy prism in inventory. May need to get himself an infusion. Maybe I'm bad at maths as well. It could be another 200. I forget my prices at the moment, but it is the infusion coming through. This is it for Tribe. They need to take down this Kraken. Thankfully, Dienzio, with his crit build, can do it very quickly. Is taking a lot of damage out. Great Gauntlet's going to stun up Fonzie. Torment those stuns up Dienzio. Never form Detonator. Fonzie deleted into his passive. Can he reboot? No, he cannot. But Dienzio is dead. It's a 2 versus 2 as T-Tigers now looks to move back onto his healing platform. And Best Chuck and A is so tanky. T-Tigers needs to take down this Black Feather. Needs to take down this Churnwalker. Moving on to Flash X. He gets the kill. Now it's just the Black Feather to deal with. The Kraken at half HP. And T-Tigers is dead, deleted by Best Chuck. Turret's going down. Zelsia, I don't think you can do it. Dienzo respawning in 3, but it will not be enough. TSM will take game 1 of the series.
The best fight setup we've seen from Tribe. They were able to get Saw in position. Dienzio was dishing out damage, but a little bit too late for them. The positioning wasn't there, and Kraken is just so much more difficult to deal with now with the health bonus. TSM will take game 1. Tribe, they had a good idea, but they couldn't execute it.
It was unfortunately just a lack of execution in the early game, I think, for Tribe. Or perhaps you could argue that it was TSM managing Tribe's win conditions and shutting them down. Either way, they looked good, and Churnwalker going to get another win on the board in the hands of Flash X. Let's throw it back to Munchables to break down that series.
Thank you very much, guys. What a game coming out from these two teams. Interesting picks across the board, and it made for a very exciting game. TSM are going to be the ones taking an advantage in this semi-final, but it was not totally one-sided. Tribe definitely held their own to some extent, but it was definitely in control of TSM.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm starting to feel like this Reza pick needs to become more of like a B-side counter pick. Like, you need to know what your opponent has before you pull it out, because we're seeing that anyone that can get a little bit of a stronger early game, the Kashka, the Alpha, seems to be able to just take dominance over the Reza through the early game and then maintain that advantage all the way throughout.
Can definitely shut it down in the early game, and the key to shutting down is being a little bit tankier. Alpha is definitely on the tankier side of the heroes, but what was the story for me is the Churnwalker in lane being able to shut down the Saw and not let him get any advantages getting any turrets, because every time Saw would come up and start hitting the turret, Churnwalker would just hook him and pull him under the turret where they would focus him with Black Feather. So actually, great execution from Flash X on the Churnwalker.
It was all about that early Churnwalker. We have a few replays of Flash X doing exactly that kind of thing on this Churnwalker, being aggressive early and making things happen for his team. Even straight at level 1, he was already hooking everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, you can hook that Treant too to help spread a little bit more damage. Both teams are going to be hitting the Treant, so it actually spreads so much damage.
That was the thing. You saw that hitting for like 300 because of the damage amp, and that spreads on all of them. It's like, if you hit multiple targets, the damage is obscene.
30% of it does get shared. Not only that, but he gets a percentage of that damage that's being shared back as health for himself so that he can frontline more and stay in the teamfight longer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do have another TSM ace that came through just under 7 minutes into the game, and this was TSM starting to set up the lead that they managed to accrue during this early game and starting to really make their mark on the game.
And this looked like it could be troublesome because Flash X was getting targeted there, but you can't target the Churnwalker. That's one of the things about playing against him. It's so difficult. If you try and focus him down, he's just going to start healing once these chains get connected. And you can see just how long Flash X is staying alive in this fight. It's actually insane, the level of the amount of durability that he has if he gets focused down.
And honestly, it's just really beautiful watching a team that is obviously very practiced on that Churnwalker pick, because every time we saw a team fight would break out, Flash X would already have his chains and hooks set up. We talked about how it's important for the Churnwalker to set up before the teamfight begins. Flash X was able to manage to set up his kit before the teamfight started very quickly.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the final fight of that game as well, as Team Solo Mid managed to push things in and finish this game off. And keep your eyes on Dienzio in this fight. He was definitely a key factor.
Yeah, definitely one of the, kind of the breaking point of this team was Dienzio on the saw, trying to make plays happen. But here he gets pulled back in from the, trying to get out of the gauntlet. Gets pulled back and just stuck in place. It was excellent play. He gets a kill there, but it's just not enough. And again, this Churnwalker able to make plays happen. Because if Dienzio gets outside of that gauntlet, then all of a sudden the members of Team Solo Mid have to chase through the gauntlet wall if they're going to get onto him. By pulling him in and keeping him inside those walls, Team Solo Mid was able to collapse onto him without him being able to escape.
And we talked about how the Broken Myth now doesn't provide the same amount of late game potential for those jungle carries that are coming, such as the Reza. That was the main reason why Blackfeather was able to close out the team fight. One thing I want to touch on, though, the fact that TSM had 3 Atlases going up against the Saw, and that was a major factor, especially in that last team fight, because all 3 Atlases were uplight on him, and it just reduced his damage output by so much.
Yeah, the damage reduction from attack speed slow on Saw is so significant, because you don't typically need to build attack speed because it's built into your kit anyway. You don't have enough to rely on there, and it can often kick you in the arse when you end up getting slowed down by those Atlases. And also, no mobility to escape the Atlases. Exceptional play coming out from Team Solo Mid. Now we need to look towards this next draft, because honestly, I don't really know what to expect out of this draft. That was not what I was expecting in this game. And now, if you're one of these 2 teams, how do you even prepare mentally for this one?
I don't know. I mean, the start of the draft was very standard and very much what you expect, as we're getting here as well. The Kroll, the Rhyme getting focused, maybe Blackfeather comes out, Arden and Lyra, things like that. But then they just sort of threw everything out the window after the first 5 or 6 picks and just went crazy with it. So who knows where these teams are going to end up going. You got to wonder, is that Churnwalker going to be drawing another ban here? It was Rogue Bandit against Team Solo Mid in their series yesterday. Tribe might just have to consider it.
I'm expecting to see TSM pick up Churnwalker again if it doesn't get banned or picked up by Tribe, unless Tribe finds one specific draft to try and counter it. I'm pretty sure TSM will pick it in most situations, but not every situation. The Blackfeather comes in first pick for TSM. I like that prioritization better than something like Churnwalker, because it's very flexible and it can work with many different comps, so it's a lot harder to counter as a first pick.
And the Arden comes on through, and with that Arden locked in for Tribe, you kind of start to expect a Lyra ban at this stage. That's kind of the typical top 2 captains we've been seeing, and often once one is picked, the other one ends up getting banned.
Yeah, it's very likely, but again, Tribe, they might consider banning that Churnwalker instead, but then you're allowing Team Solo Mid and FlashX to have this Lyra, and he has been incredible with that pick. You even go back to the Unified Live Championship, he made some crazy plays with the Lyra, having huge amounts of burst healing, so they are going to choose to take that one off the board. So Churnwalker would be available to Team Solo Mid if they do decide to go for it, as they take the Koshka away to make sure T-Tigers does not get that
I was about to say, if they don't ban it here, it's going to be a little bit dangerous, just because Tiggs would be able to get his hands on that hero that he performed so well on. Now they have a couple of different options. They still have the Kestrel and they still have the Pedal weapon power. Those are 2 of their actually top weapon power heroes. Instead, they decide to take out the CP Alpha. They say that was actually the biggest reason why we lost, and we don't want to play against it again.
Yeah, I don't know if they're saying it's the biggest reason they lost, but it is just making sure that Team Solo Mid can't draft the exact same composition, because Team Solo Mid would have been more than happy to run the exact same thing if given the opportunity. So Churnwalker is still a pretty high chance that they could just go for it again, but now we'll see if they do decide to change it up, because they're going to be up against this Alpha. They're not going to have that same level of strength, but that they had in game number 1.
Yeah,
I mean, I would expect something to be an early aggressive hero for them, because that's just the style that they've been running. It's what works so well for Von C. But with both Koshka and Alpha off the table, their options for that are starting to dwindle a little.
One of their options that's still open is the Sky. It works really well against Alpha as a CP in the jungle. The only thing about it is that Von C hasn't played it in a while, and it doesn't combine the best with Blackfeather. Another thing that they can go for is play the Blackfeather CP in the jungle. That's another good matchup, and pick up something such as the Celeste. But that's gonna be open power Black Feather if it is in the jungle, unless they're gonna be they're gonna play the Celeste and the jungle SCP.
We'll have to see which direction they want to go with this one. Obviously, Churnwalker locked in for FlashX once again. This is starting to feel like a comfort pick for FlashX at this stage. He definitely is willing to go for that lock-in. I'm curious to see what Tribe have up their sleeves to try and build into this composition. It's going to be that Petal coming on in. So Alpha going CP in the jungle and Weapon. Petal going up into the lane. How are we feeling about these compositions now that they've rounded out, gents? How do we expect this game to go down?
I mean, the side of Tribe has to be pretty happy with their draft. T-Tigers is on a bit of a playmaker with the Alpha. Dienzio is extremely confident with this Weapon Petal. And assuming it is going to be the Celeste in the lane, this was why Weapon Petal was being picked up in the first place, was to try and counter against some of these mages. So I think Tribe's going to be very happy with the outcome of this draft.
I actually disagree. I think TSM came pretty far ahead in the draft. Because of Celeste and Black for the late game, they can deal with something like Petal very easily because of how squishy she is. On top of that, they do have the Churnwalker that does seem like a comfort pick for them at this point, not something that's so situational, and FlashX is really performing well. As long as Alpha doesn't get too far ahead early on, I expect TSM to take this one.
All right, so we have a bit of a divided desk. One analyst going either way on this one. And so far, we have a divided scoreline with a 1-0 lead in favor of TSM. Let us know whether you think Tribe can come back into the series using the hashtag Vainglory8. But it's time just about to get into game number 2 of this series. So let's pass it back over to Dowsy and the Source.
Tasty Bacon says that Tribe have comfort picks. TSM, Araki says that they've just got a strong OP 2.9 composition. You know what FlashX says, Source? Churnwalker Hype Train is pulling out of the station. 1-0 to TSM. Let's see if they can make it 2 here as we get into the second matchup.
I definitely believe in FlashX's Churnwalker. He seems to have a really good sense of how far he can push the hero. Yes, there was that little bit of mess up, but like already we see he's going for this aggressive jungle positioning. He's using his chains to be able to kind of guarantee free jungle clear, although Vonsi did get rooted, so there's a bit of a misstep there. And we see Zelsier very deep in enemy territory.
Notices that TSM starting at the middle of the map for that Elder Treant, so attempted to steal on the double backs, but Bestchuck and a good presence of mind to head on over and check on him out to stop Zelsier from stealing anything. So TSM going to get literally everything, and then they're going to have their cake and eat it too as they head up to the lane for Bestchuck and a to face up against Dienzio on this Celeste versus Petal.
Yeah, and this will also be an interesting combination between what a Torment into Core Collapse kind of looks like, how much value Bestchuck and can get in the early stages of the game, just setting plays up with FlashX. And Churnwalker is a very facilitating hero, allows you to set up a lot of plays. So definitely anticipate them putting a lot of lane pressure in there, but I think there's a balance here. What strategy does TSM decide to go for? Do they spend time in the jungle? Or do they spend time in the lane? It looks like they want to fight here.
Vonsi's 1v2ing, but here comes Dienzio. I think Vonsi may have bit off more than he can chew, trying to escape T-Tigers as he pirouettes across the map. Bestchuck and Abe sticks his nose in it, and T-Tigers will cut it off. FlashX is going to be next on the menu, and I think this Churnwalker is going to be going down. A double for T-Tigers on that Alpha. A very strong pickup here in 2.9.
Yeah, good punishment from the side of Tribe to just collapse very, very quickly, and it's difficult to fight an Alpha in the early stage. You usually don't have the DPS to burst through the infinite reboot, and so now Tribe, they've got some space to maneuver. They get that early game they were looking for last game. Now they have it with the Alpha. She should be able to stack up her damage fairly quickly, and we'll see whether or not that burst starts to overcome the health bar of Bestchuck and who is that squishy mage we have this time. Last game, they were much more, an overall tankier lineup, but just a more difficult to kill lineup. Now they're a little bit more immobile. We'll see how TSM makes it through this.
A lot of pressure being put onto Dienzio in the lane.
Oh my.
FlashX and Bestchuck and a. Zelsier going very low, but here comes T-Tigers. Oh dear, FlashX finds the 1v1! And now he is probably done. T-Tigers going to move on in, look for the kill. Monty's here. That's a great core collapse. Never mind, TSM have turned it around, and T-Tigers going to be put into a sleeping process, and that's going to be the program shut off as well. EXE not working, program not found. TSM 3-2.
I think Zelsier forgot that there were multiple chains because there was just that little bit of damage, and FlashX pretty much killed him with a chain on Zelsier, a chain on T-Tigers, and then a Torment, and he just had so little health. And, you know, yes, Turnwalker doesn't do a massive amount of damage, but you can't forget about what happens when the chains are there. Now Von C is going to get clear space in the jungle. T-Tigers has to take a bunch of time to make his way back to the rest of the map. And although Tribe is pushing this lane up, we're starting to get to the point where Celeste is going to dish out that damage and be able to clear very, very quickly.
I almost feel like FlashX has kind of set himself a challenge here, Source. How many weeks, how many matches until North America bans Churnwalker against me? That's the challenge. Keep track, guys, because I feel that if Churnwalker is open, TSM are just going to continue picking it until, one, they stop winning, or two, it starts getting banned against them. FlashX seems to think that this hero is just, you know, a playmaker's dream at this point.
For sure. And it's going to take a little while before people kind of get used to it. The fact that he's picked it up has a good sense for the hero, kind of gives TSM an advantage. And then they're able to play things like, you know, a Celeste and make easy setups. They've, you know, give Von C the Black Feather, and he's able to kind of kite around the fight. FlashX has sort of turned himself into the focal point of the composition by being such a threat on this hero. And now we have to see how Tribe respond to that. They've done an okay job punishing them when they collapse on them in the jungle, but so far they haven't really gained a sense of how far they can push being hooked. Yes, T-Tigers is got his aftershock, his first item spike is there. He could easily bring down a squishy target in the backline. The question is TSM going to give them the space to be able to actually do that? Because the dive potential is pretty much all on Alpha until Zelsier gets that gauntlet online, is able to kind of follow up on that dive. Dienzio doesn't really want to trampoline in, so compositionally it's very comfortable, but there's a little bit of anti-synergy there with just how they're having to respond to what TSM is bringing to the map.
Right now, we see Best Chuck picking up his Eve of Harvest. Fairly conventional first item for the Celeste in the lane, but I'm very interested to see where he goes next. He's got the components for every item on the CP train, it seems like. Could go for a Dragon's Eye next, a Shadow Glass, a Frostburn, or even a Spellfire. Very likely to be either a Shadow Glass or a Dragon's Eye, you'd feel, at this point of the game, with Frostburn kind of feeling a little bit lackluster, to say the least. Tribe at the other side, Dienzio's finished his Sorrow Blade, is now moving towards his Tornado Triggers, and T-Tigers has that Aftershock online as well. It's a very important power spike for this alpha. It's something that Tribe can really fight around, and they've started up this Gold Miner, which is basically Tribe saying that they are ready to team fight. TSM aren't even checking at this point, but they need to know what's going on. Perhaps they just want to try and push the turret in instead. Going to do a lot of damage to it. It is 289 gold picked up. TSM can't really do anything, but the chains are there. Torment to pull them back. In fact, can they do anything else is the question. There is no trespass. T-Tigers, boom, onto Flash X and Von C, but it's not much, and oh dear, look at the damage being dealt by Von C. T-Tigers does get to reboot, but that is Dienzio going down. T-Tigers as well. It's a double kill for Von C as he charges forward to try and take down Zelsier. Missing his on point, he will just back off for now, but TSM with an opportunity to take down this turret here. They can just manage their aggro. Don't want to lose out on an opportunity here by aggroing the turret, and that will be the turret falling.
Zelsier might want to be careful if he decides he's going to stick around that for a little while longer. He does now have the gauntlet. That was a fight with neither captain having their ultimates online. You know, that definitely changes things up if that's in there. But we're just continuing to see Tribe. They're not really spending the time breaking the chains from Flash X. But here's the dive.
Here's the dive onto the turret. Best Chuck will go down, but Dienzio going to lose his life as well, and T-Tigers hasn't found his passive reboot. Oh, he gets it just as he goes down, but he will, in fact, just go down. That was a little bit adventurous, to say the least, out of Tribe.
It looked good at the start. They got the initial damage down, but again, it's really deceptive to think about when Flash X is actually going to land a hook. It's a very short cooldown if the first one lands. It's not a big damaging skill. You don't really think about, you know, it's not like there's a big spell effect there for you to really indicate that that skill has hit you, and you just have to pay attention to the fact that the chains are there. And TSM is very much playing into this. Let the side of Tribe, you know, they'll instantly engage a fight, TSM. And then it looks like it's turning in the favor of Tribe, and TSM will sort of start to back off, and Tribe starts to collapse, thinking they can get that focus fire down, they can get that advantage, and Flashx just continues to bait them. I want to see the side of Tribe really find a clean pick. Get that initial damage down like this onto Von C. This could be an opportunity.
It only could be. It is going to be Von C falling back for now. Currently, TSM able to control the threat of the map. Churnwalker struggles a little bit into heroes that can dive on top of him, but right now it seems like TSM are managing it fairly well. T-Tigers! Holy damage! That's going to be a trespass, locking everyone up. T-Tigers will go down, found it to keep Flashx alive, and T-Tigers is dead. Dienzio trying to find a kill into Flashx, but he's being healed so much by Frutility of Life, and he just about survives. Von C will continue the chase, but will give up as Zelsia has gone too far. You're just seeing the strength of Churnwalker's heroic perk there as TSM basically keeps Flashx alive via damage.
Well, it's also just how Tribe has to position in these team fights. This is an unconventional way of positioning. You don't normally think you have to instantly disengage when two people have been hit by a skill that doesn't do any damage. And so that's sort of dictating where Tribe can position, and we see T-Tigers. He almost managed to get the kill onto Bestchuck NA. He put out massive damage. Flashx was almost dead. The fight looked good, you know, for a reasonable amount of time. But they, honestly, if Tribe wants to disengage with Dienzio, who's kind of, using that trampoline to pull backwards and then reset his positioning on the team fight, get away from Von C and, pick him off, who really is, right now, seems to be the best target. If they jump Bestchuck NA, they have to kill him very quickly. They don't seem able to do that. So bait Von C in and get the kill. They have to move back as a coordinated team. They have to do everything together.
That was a trespass used onto Dienzio to stun him up, and oh goodness, he just gets Solar Storm to the face. T-Tiger's going to blow up on Flashx, but does nothing. Zelsia's in trouble. Flashx is dragging T-Tigers around the map. It's a double for Bestchuck NA, and now it's only Zelsia left alive. This time, Von C is eager and bloodthirsty for this kill onto Zelsia. But once more, Mega Sub will escape Von C's cruel wrath. TSM, however, going to push onto the second turret.
They'll be able to continue to pressure up this lane. They've got about 3k gold lead. Item-wise, fight's on.
No, Dienzio, perhaps a little bit too deep. He just gets taken out by Von C on this Black. The turret goes down. Tribe giving yet another kill over to TSM. This has not even been close so far, Source.
Yeah, TSM is cranking up the pace of the game, not really allowing Tribe time to, either farm up items or set up the team fight they're looking for, and now that kind of team fight is falling apart for the side of Tribe. Their options for targets, yes, you can still jump Bestchuck NA, but that's a difficult prospect. If any chains have landed before you manage to get that initial dive in, you have to worry about that CC coming in. Then there's a core collapse. The Solar Storms have been on point from Bestchuck NA. The damage is there for the side of TSM, and they're coordinating it very, very well. Not a single major objective, I think, has gone over to Tribe. They've lost all of the gold miners taken. They still haven't taken the first turret. So it's the pressure is mounting up against Tribe as to where they find their victory in this fight.
Currently lacking a little bit on the damage front. Dienzio looking to try and finish his second. Trying to trigger. T-Tigers just taken out of the team fight. No big deal. That's going to be Dienzio stunned up. And a Solar Storm to delete him. Von C to find the kill. Tribe have been leashed up by Flashx, and they're going to be pulled around. It's another kill going over to Bestchuck NA. And it is going to be Zelsia once more. Last man standing as TSM take down the choke point turret. Flashx, God of the Churn, currently walking through the Halcyon Fold without a fear. TSM with a 6,000 gold lead to take away this Crystal Sentry.
Yeah, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I feel like it's been a major factor over the course of these fights, is Flashx went with a very early pair of War Treads. He picked that up, I want to say that was his second item before he got that Atlas Pauldron, so it was Fountain into War Treads. He just wants his team to, one, be able to kite out T-Tigers, just make it just impossible for the Alpha to really get into her element, but he also just wants to be able to get into the backline, to be able to help the team re-engage, to chase with those hook and chain, and that's, I think, set up Von C to be able to put pressure in the backline. It's let Bestchuck NA just fire off as much damage as humanly possible. It doesn't need to upgrade those boots to match that increased range on the Heliogenesis, so it can always be there to get the damage in. And we see TSM setting up for another team fight.
Tribe are caught out here. Dienzio trying to trampoline on top of Best Chuck, but that is his death, and Vonsi will finish him off. It is T-Tiger stunned up as Best Chuck and A deals the damage. It's gonna be a boom boom on top of Best Chuck to find a kill. Shutdown does come through from T-Tigers, but Zelsia at the moment is losing his life. Can T-Tigers do anything to turn this fight around for Tribe? As they all get pulled in by Flash X, the damage being shared between them. A fountain will come out, T-Tigers going low, and he will be taken out by Vonsi. Zelsia, again, the Mega Sub stands left on this all by himself. Dienzio respawning. They may go for something, a desperation play at this point for Tribe. Zelsia down to half HP. The hooks have started being chained, and that is going to be Dienzio stunned up and deleted. Kind of a big deal. Yeah, you are, Vonsi, right now. You have no fear. You're fighting like a champion. Zelsia, unfortunately, nowhere to go as both the Crystal Sentry and Zelsia get taken simultaneously. Vonsi going to turn around to face this Sentry and take its second life. TSM, almost a problem. How do you solve a problem like TSM in North America right now? How do you solve Flash X Churnwalker?
Honestly, I think you might actually have to ban this from him. Every time they set up on an objective, Churnwalker puts a hook onto that Crystal Sentry, puts it onto that Elder Tree, and, gets it onto some kind of jungle objective. That's how they play and fight in the jungle. Then he lands 2-3 chains. He's already kind of got, all the pieces to the formula for him to do the damage he's able to do. And 2.8 was the patch where we saw all that healing nerf. Now we've got Churnwalker. In that 2v2 team fight, no damage could stick. You have a Serpent's Mask on Vonsi, and then you have Flash X with his passive. Combined those two, you just watch the health bars of T-Tigers and Zelsia fall. And they couldn't actually get any damage to hold in. They need Dienzio's consistent damage to battle that healing. And yes, they managed to pick up a kill on the Best Chuck and A. But what does that matter? Best Chuck and A is still full build at this point in the game. There's just been such a gold influx coming to the side of TSM through the amount of objectives they've been able to take, through how much kill participation there is with pretty much everybody surviving from TSM. And here's the engage.
Dienzio's trapped once more in a team fight. Gonna be gauntlet placed, but Dienzio can't escape Vonsi. He falls down. That's a great core collapse onto T-Tigers, but T-Tigers is doing the damage to Best Chuck. Misses the prime directive. Best Chuck should be okay, you would feel. No, maybe not. Oh, never mind. Core collapse to keep himself alive. Best Chuck NA taking the kill away. 20-4, 10,000 gold, 16 minutes into this game. TSM probably could have pushed into the base and finished it, but they want to add some more stats to themselves. So let's get ourselves a Kraken, finish this series once and for all.
That was a great play coming out of Flash X. We've got a replay. You guys can watch this again. First trespass is used to set up the initial dive. So much pressure on the from Vonsi onto Dienzio, and then there's going to be a follow-up trespass to stop the termination protocol from Alpha. There just isn't enough consistent damage. Dienzio doesn't survive the fights long enough. He's got that full crit build, but it doesn't really matter if Vonsi is keeping so much pressure on him, and that Echo second trespass was beautiful.
Incredible stuff from Flash X. Apparently TSM, the monsters they are, saying we want to go to Singapore. We want to challenge East Asia, North America, and Europe and SEA at Worlds. It's going to be a fight breaking out here as T-Tigers is going very low, doing his best to Best Chuck. Prime directive into the middle of the fight. Dienzio trying to get in there as well, but T-Tigers goes down before using that prime directive, and he's out of the fight. Dienzio nets the 4. Vonsi should finish it off. It's only Zelsia left standing, trying to get away, but he's being walked away by Flash X, who pulls him back in, and Vonsi will find the ace. It's TSM all over. It's a sweet 2-0 for North American champions TSM, once more wanting to make their way to the top. Challenge Cloud9, who've taken that throne. They're going to be in the finals of week 1 of Split 2.
An amazing display from TSM. I definitely believe that this Churnwalker needs to be banned. Arden puts down a gauntlet, and in reality, you're actually trapped in there with Flash X. It's been, impressive to see him pull out a new hero so quickly, and I want to see what else they do with it.
Incredible stuff from TSM once more, taking this series in such dominant fashion. have to hear from Munchable and his analysts to break down this series.
Just the one Munchable here through alongside my analyst. We are ready to break this game down, and that was much more one-sided than the first game. We said that Tribe held their own a little bit in game one. They didn't really in game number two. 23-4 final scoreline. And I think we're seeing that maybe Churnwalker is a strong pick and other teams are just slower to follow up.
Yeah, I said Tribe was going to be happy with their draft, but Team Solo Mid was happy with Tribe's draft too, because they just walked all over them with this Churnwalker pick, leading them around as if on a leash. It was really impressive stuff coming out from FlashX, Bestchuck, and Vonsi.
No, seriously though, TSM has always been the team that adapts to the new update the quickest, and the team that experiments the most to find what is strongest. Churnwalker definitely seems to be a pick that is going to be big for them, continuing on to the split.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see more of Churnwalker. And also, how teams start to play around Churnwalker, what the counter picks are, and such like as this continues to develop. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of that game.